If there's one thing that never goes out of style, it's good old pixel art. Even with all of today's technology, these games continue to win us over, mixing nostalgia with brand new experiences. And 2026 promises to be a year full of incredible titles in this style, featuring jaw-dropping visuals, memorable soundtracks, and mechanics that go far beyond simple retro graphics. So, prepare your heart and your hard drive space, because today I'm going to show you 10 simply incredible pixel art games arriving in 2026. And the best part is, there are games for every platform. I'm Matthew, and the video starts right now. Guys, let me tell you about Mina the Hollower, this pixel art game that has me anxious for 2026. I always get hyped for titles that bring back that Game Boy Color vibe, and this one looks perfect for anyone who enjoys a Metroidvania with a touch of gothic horror. Kind of like a top-down Zelda mixed with Castlevania, you know? Mina is a genius mouse inventor, a member of a guild of hollowers who study the earth, and she uses a whip called Night Star to attack in 4 directions, dodging enemies with style. What won me over immediately was the hollowing mechanic. She burrows into the ground for a short time, becoming invincible, which is perfect for crossing gaps or escaping danger. I can already imagine insane combos with this against monstrous bosses. There are also secondary weapons like axes and daggers, only one at a time, and trinkets that boost everything from combat to navigation in a beautiful and vast isometric world, full of secrets in exotic places like poisonous swamps. I love how this encourages exploration, like scouring every pixel to find upgrades. It reminds me of my Shovel Knight marathons, but darker. The story takes place on a cursed island called Tenebrous Isle in the 1700s, with anthropomorphic animals set in a gothic horror atmosphere. Mina goes to fix their spark generators that went out, funded by Baron Lionel, but the villain Thorn, a traitorous bat, is standing in the way with his troopers. It's a plot of betrayal and mystery that hooked me because I love narratives with rich patrons and sinister twists. The guys at Yacht Club Games, the same ones behind Shovel Knight, started this as a solo project by Alec Faulkner, which evolved into a bombastic Kickstarter that raised over $1.4 million. The visuals respect the GBC's limitations, with a 4-color palette per tile, but push the boundaries with widescreen resolution. To me, it's the perfect homage to retro without being lazy. The launch was supposed to be in October 2025, but it was delayed to the middle or end of 2026. If you enjoy that hardcore 2D game atmosphere, Bushiden is one of those games that looks like it was made to become a weekend obsession. It has the look of a strong candidate. What grabs your attention first is the promise of beautifully drawn and animated pixel art, with that polished retro aesthetic that makes you want to pause just to admire the scenery and attack poses. And this type of art direction, when executed well, usually gives even basic movement, walking, jumping, drawing a weapon, a personality that hooks you. Structurally, Bushiden already sells itself with a very clear loop, revisiting stages after getting new abilities, opening previously inaccessible areas, and getting stronger in the process. This is the type of progression I love because it turns every upgrade into a mental key. You get something new and immediately think, okay, now I can go back to that suspicious wall, jump, door. Another thing that excites me is the ninja action identity mixed with Metroidvania, with a vibe that has already been compared to ninja action in the style of Strider. If the game hits the right rhythm, fast combat, sharp movement, and enemies that demand a response, it could yield those delicious moments of, I entered the flow state and cleared the room without taking a hit. It's also worth noting that the game is signed by Pixel Arc Studios, listed as developer and publisher on Steam. I always keep an eye out when a smaller studio funds its own project because sometimes a purer vision comes out of it, unafraid of being niche, exactly the type of game the pixel art scene usually delivers well. This is one of those games that seems made for people who love revisiting maps, unlocking abilities, and returning to the same place feeling like they've gotten stronger. The Steam page doesn't nail down a date yet, so the best thing is to follow along there and on the official site as the 2026 window takes shape. Scott Pilgrim EX is arriving in 2026 as a true triumphant return to the pixel art universe that defined an era. The game brings a proposal that mixes nostalgia and innovation, promising a cooperative brawler experience that goes far beyond what we saw in the original, with art inspired by 90s classics and chaotic combat for up to 4 players. What impresses me most is that the game is being developed by Tribute Games, the same studio behind Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge, guaranteeing refined gameplay full of energy. Plus, Brian Lee O'Malley, the creator of the comics, is involved in creating the story, which promises to expand the universe in bold and unexpected ways, both for old fans and for those getting to know it for the first time. The soundtrack, signed by the band Anamanaguchi, is once again a major highlight. The music plays a central role, creating an atmosphere that makes you feel like you're inside a 90s video game, but with a modern and fresh vibe. Every battle, every combo, and every character comes to life with this soundtrack, making the experience even more immersive. You'll be able to control 7 playable characters, including Scott Pilgrim, Ramona Flowers, and other icons, each with unique abilities and a complete moveset right from the start. The progression allows you to customize attributes and equip special items, adapting the fighting style to your way of playing. This brings a layer of replayability that is hard to ignore. The exploration of Toronto, reimagined and distorted, is non-linear, allowing you to choose your paths and discover secrets at different paces. The setting is invaded by demons, vegan henchmen, and robots, creating a chaotic and fun atmosphere. The pixel art visuals are signed by Paul Robertson, who returns with new sprites, and the game promises creative combos, improvised weapons, and frenetic gameplay that gets the adrenaline pumping. Scott Pilgrim EX is a game that mixes nostalgia, creativity, and cooperation in a way few titles can. If you enjoy beat-em-ups, pixel art, and stories full of personality, this is going to be one of the big highlights of 2026. It's an experience that promises to make you relive the magic of retro games, but with new energy and many surprises ahead. Replaced is coming in 2026 as one of the most anticipated pixel art games of the year, promising a cinematic and intense experience in a dystopian cyberpunk world. The game was developed by Sad Cat Studios and will be officially released on March 12th for PC and Xbox Series, also arriving on Xbox Game Pass on the same day, guaranteeing access for a lot of people right off the bat. The story puts you in the role of Reach, an artificial intelligence trapped in a human body, in an alternative America devastated by a nuclear disaster. You will explore Phoenix City, a place where corruption, greed, and organ trafficking dominate. The atmosphere is grim, heavy, and the handcrafted pixel art visuals are enhanced with modern effects that bring every detail of the scenery to life, creating unique immersion. What attracts me most to Replaced is the fluid and responsive combat, which mixes precise shooting, melee strikes, and well-timed dodges. Every encounter feels like a small choreography, with agile movements and actions that keep the pace constantly electrifying. Parkour and exploration are fundamental, allowing you to run, climb, and discover secrets hidden in neon-lit alleys and decaying industrial facilities. The narrative promises to be deep, plunging the player into a plot of conspiracies and discoveries. As Reach learns what it means to exist among flesh, guilt, and violence, you will unravel mysteries that could change everything. It's a story that invites reflection, but also maintains a fast pace, with twists and constant tension. The soundtrack, with lugubrious synthesizers, perfectly complements the game's mood, creating a retro-futuristic atmosphere that envelops you from start to finish. The care with every detail, from the art to the lighting, shows the studio's effort to deliver something beyond the conventional, with visuals that mix classic pixel art and cinematic modernity. Replaced is that type of game that hooks you in the first few minutes, whether by the aesthetic, the combat, or the story. If you enjoy cyberpunk dystopias, refined pixel art, and narrative games with intense action, this is going to be one of the big releases of 2026. The Last Night is one of the most awaited pixel art games of recent years, promising a cinematic and immersive experience in a dystopian cyberpunk world. The game mixes 2D and 3D elements in a unique way, creating a visual atmosphere that borders on pure digital art, with vibrant and detailed scenarios that transport the player to a future city full of mystery and tension. The story takes place in a future where advanced technology coexists with social decay, and you will explore 4 distinct districts, each with its own architecture, culture, and secrets. The pixel art visuals are enhanced by modern lighting and rendering techniques, giving the game a cinematic look rare for the genre, with visual effects that make every scene look like a living painting. What catches my attention most is the way the game combines freedom of exploration with an engaging narrative. You can move freely between districts, use futuristic transport, interact with crowds, drones, and unique characters, all within an open structure that values discovery and the player's personal pace. The combat and gameplay are fluid, with actions that mix parkour, shooting, and environmental interactions. Every encounter feels like carefully thought out choreography, keeping the rhythm always electrifying and the player constantly alert. The blend of pixel art and 3D elements brings a sense of modernity without losing the essence of the classics. The soundtrack, with synthesized and atmospheric tones, perfectly complements the game's aesthetic, creating total immersion. The care with every visual and sonic detail shows Odd Tales Studios' effort to deliver something that goes beyond the conventional, with a striking visual identity and a narrative that promises to make the player reflect on the future of humanity. The Last Night is that type of game that hooks you in the first few minutes, whether by the aesthetics, the story, or the freedom of exploration. If you enjoy cyberpunk, refined pixel, art, and narrative games with a cinematic touch, this is going to be one of the big releases of 2026. SacriFire is a pixel art RPG that promises to bring back all the essence of the great classics of the 90s, but with its own visual and narrative identity. The game is being developed by Pixelated Milk, known for titles like Regalia of Men and Monarchs, and will be released in the first quarter of 2026 for PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch, ensuring access for anyone who enjoys JRPGs on any platform. What catches my attention most is the mixture of dynamic combat and an engaging narrative, which promises to explore universal themes with a personal and modern touch. The pixel art visuals are refined, with detailed scenes and charismatic characters, creating an atmosphere that balances nostalgia and novelty. The story revolves around a journey of discovery and self-knowledge, where every decision can shape the destiny of the characters and the world around them. The combat is fluid, with mechanics inspired by traditional RPGs, but with modern touches that seek to make every encounter more strategic and rewarding. Additionally, SacriFire features a striking soundtrack and quality voice acting, something that can make all the difference in immersion. The trailers show a vibrant world, full of secrets and twists, inviting the player to explore every corner and take different paths in each playthrough. The developer has been listening to community feedback, especially regarding gameplay, and promises to improve the combat system to be more responsive and engaging than in the early demos. This shows a commitment to quality and the player experience, something I always value in indie games. SacriFire is that type of RPG that has everything to be a pleasant surprise in 2026. If you like pixel art, deep stories, and strategic combat, this game deserves special attention. It will be an opportunity to live an adventure that mixes the best of the past with the freshness of the future of RPGs.
You have everything it takes to really help Antioch.
What do you want us to do?
Threads of Time is a 2.5D pixel art JRPG that shamelessly embraces that inspiration from Chrono Trigger, and also a bit of Final Fantasy. And that, for me, already puts the game on a mental list of releases to keep an eye on. It was revealed with the trailer at Tokyo Game Show 2024, and bets on a modern presentation built on Unreal Engine 5, with that delicious mix of retro charm and more current effects. The premise revolves around time travel, gathering heroes from different eras and stitching it all together in a plot that spans entire civilizations. The release material speaks of an ancient order, the Time Knights, that needs to be restored, and that immediately gives me the feeling of a good guy epic adventure, with that taste of a classic group journey. In combat, the promise is a turn-based system with plenty of strategy, but with a dynamic visual presentation and team combos that play with the time theme, like breaking defenses and chaining actions. This excites me, because it's the type of JRPG that tries to be classic in the brain and modern in the spectacle. You can think through every move well, but still feel the impact on the screen. Another detail that sells me on this game is the cinematic production vibe with anime-style cutscenes, reinforcing that feeling that every era will have its own identity. And from what has been disclosed, the project is based at Rio Games with publishing by Humble Games, which usually pairs well with auteur RPGs that want to be big without losing personality. Regarding the release in 2026, many people treat Threads of Time as a strong candidate for this period, but officially, the game does not yet have a confirmed date. On official pages, the release appears as to be announced. So the way I see it, it's one of those cases where it's worth holding your excitement with one hand and with the other, already putting the game on your wish list. Because when it finally appears with a date, it's probably going to make a lot of noise.
Let me show you a glimpse of what I saw.
Witchbrook is one of the most awaited pixel art games for fans of simulation and magic, promising a charming experience that mixes elements of Stardew Valley and Hogwarts Legacy, but with a unique visual and narrative identity. The game is being developed by Chucklefish, the studio known for Starbound and Wargroove, and will be released in 2026 for PC, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox, following a delay that left a lot of people in anticipation. The premise of Witchbrook is simple but captivating. You take on the role of a new resident in a magical town, where you can practice witchcraft, explore winding streets, and interact with characters full of personality. The pixel art visual is inspired by Studio Ghibli, especially animations like Kiki's Delivery Service, and the team even used Google Street View references to create realistic scenarios full of detail. What attracts me most is the promise of a magical daily life, where you can grow rare plants, learn spells, participate in town, events, and even play with up to 3 friends in cooperative mode. The focus is on creating a welcoming environment where every choice and interaction can influence the story and the world around you. Despite all the expectations, Witchbrook hasn't shown real gameplay yet, only animations and concept art, which leaves the game shrouded in mystery. Many fans are anxious, but also skeptical, since development has had pauses and engine changes, in addition to a complete art overhaul during the process. The Chucklefish team emphasizes that they value the team's well-being, avoiding crunch and prioritizing quality, which may explain the delays. They promise a game that goes beyond simulation, offering a rich narrative and a world that breathes magic and enchantment, all in pixel art. Witchbrook is that type of game that awakens nostalgia for the great classics, but with a modern proposal full of charm. If you like simulations, magic, and a touch of mystery, this is going to be one of them. Big releases of 2026, even if we still have to wait a little longer to see everything working in practice. Mariachi Legends is a brutal pixel art Metroidvania that promises to be one of the big releases of 2026, bringing a proposal full of personality and inspiration from Mexican folklore. Developed by Halberd Studios, the game puts you in the role of Pablo Cruz, a detective who makes a pact with death herself and transforms into La Sombra, a supernatural hero who fights against criminals and forces from the beyond. The story is dark and cinematic, exploring themes like life, death, family bonds, and historical roots, all set in the vibrant city of Santa Mascota. The pixel art visuals are impressive, with direct influences from the Day of the Dead and Mexican folklore, creating a unique and immersive atmosphere that stands out even among other titles in the genre. The combat is fast-paced and brutal, demanding skill and strategy to defeat varied enemies and unlock new abilities. Each game session leads you to investigate clues, carry out stealth missions, and explore a world full of mysteries and dangers, encouraging discovery and the constant improvement of your arsenal. Besides the gameplay, Mariachi Legends stands out for its inspired soundtrack and scenarios charged with Mexican cultural identity. The game was successfully funded on Kickstarter, showing great community support, and will be released for PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series, expanding its reach to different audiences. The project is a promise for Metroidvania fans, mixing intense action, deep narrative, and a striking visual aesthetic. Mariachi Legends is that type of game that shows how pixel art can be modern, brutal, and full of soul. With a rich cultural proposal and frenetic combat, it has everything to be one of the highlights of the genre in 2026. Grave Seasons is one of those games that looks like a comfy farm sim at first glance, but actually hides a much darker twist at the core of the experience. The official description itself defines the game as a narrative farming simulator where someone in town is a serial killer with supernatural connections, and that completely changes the mood of every conversation and every daily routine. The idea that hooks you here is this contrast: planting, fishing, and living your life while the town might be one step away from another tragedy. The game puts you in the shoes of a prison fugitive who finds shelter in a rural community, only to end up involved in the hunt for this supernatural serial killer. The setting is the town of Ashen Ridge, and the promise is that you will alternate between typical genre tasks, fishing, planting, mining, and investigating the mystery haunting the residents. For a video script, this makes for a great read. Every perfect day has that tension that something could go wrong when you least expect it. Instead of just being another harvest game with a checklist of activities, Grave Seasons seems to want to turn relationships and routines into clues. And that is the type of proposal that makes you want to test it on the controller. The project's presentation reinforces that it is a narrative farming sim with this terrifying twist, indicating that story and suspicion will have real weight on progression. Behind the scenes, the game is developed by Perfect Garbage and published by Blumhouse Games, which fits perfectly with this more cinematic horror and constant suspense vibe. And the release is confirmed for 2026, with announcements citing versions for PC and consoles, including Switch, PS5, and Xbox Series. Grave Seasons has everything to be that title that splits your time between relaxing and getting paranoid. And honestly, it's exactly this mixture that makes it stand out. If the execution matches the premise, farm plus supernatural mystery plus killer in town, you can imagine a game that creates memorable stories even in the simple moments of everyday life.